Make sure I'm recording in both places. Sometimes I got to double check that because then that would be bad. Yes, I am. All right. Hello and happy Tuesday to all the followers of Man Up to Cancer. This is Trevor. This is the Man Up to Cancer podcast. Today, we are going to be focusing on a hot topic in cancer land, which is the topic of career changes and going back to work after cancer diagnosis and treatment. Navigating work and finances are major challenges for many of you listening, for many of the guys who are part of the Man Up to Cancer community, especially for younger guys like today's guest, my dear friend, Jay Abramovitch. Jay, I'm going to give you several intros actually. So Jay is the director of retreats for Man Up to Cancer, where he oversees the world's largest men's cancer retreat, the Gathering of Wolves. Hit him up at retreat@manuptocancer.org if you're interested. If you're a guy out there impacted by cancer, you can come to our retreat. We want you. Um, I'm going to tell more about Jay after I say hi, but Jay, he is joining us from his home in South Mountain, Ontario, Canada. How's it going today, Jay?
It is going wonderful. I know coincidentally, this is about work, and I literally just got off work and got all settled in for the podcast here. And I'm yeah, just super excited to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to learn about Jay's days are packed with responsibilities and work and all kinds of stuff. I don't know how he fits it all in. He has a young daughter that we'll talk about too. This wonderful daughter, Kira. So I'm just going to another short intro on Jay. Jay is a devoted dad, husband, son, brother, uncle, friend, advocate, supporter, runner, and outdoorsman. He was diagnosed with stage 3B colorectal cancer in October of 2020, so at the age of 36. Jay was then what we like to say Ned, or no evidence of disease, or I even like it better, moving into Nedville. For about 2 years, he was Ned. And then in September of 2024, scans identified two lung nodules, metastatic from his original colon cancer. He underwent radiation and zapped those suckers, and now is back on surveillance and living his life. And in addition to serving as Man Up to Cancer's retreat director, Jay is involved in leadership or consulting roles with many cancer advocacy organizations in Canada and internationally. Check out his full bio in the show notes. If you're in Canada, you probably see his face on some cancer advocacy programs. So, whew, Jay, did I get it? Is there more? Do you have anything else you want to add on there?
No, I think that's perfect. Every time, well, for those who don't know me, I'm actually a very quiet, humble person. So whenever I'm at an event or about to speak and someone reads my bio, I kind of get
Like, is that me? Yeah.
all flushed and a little blushy and embarrassed. But yes, that was very accurate. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's that same thing, man. It's like we live our lives in this cancer space, and man, you do a lot. You do a lot, and you normalize that. But man, other people would look at it and be like, "How the heck does he do this?" So Jay and I could talk about 100 topics, probably even more than that. But today we are dialing in on career changes and going back to work after cancer. So, Jay, let's start where it happened. You were 36 years old when you were diagnosed. What did your work life look like at that point, pre-cancer?
Yeah, I'll have to go back here. So much has changed, but like kind of blast to the past. But I guess back to about 5 years ago now, I was in a management role at a wonderful nonprofit organization here in Ontario. Um, it was called St. John Ambulance, and we're actually a pretty big worldwide organization. And my portfolio there, I was responsible for about 200 volunteers who provide medical first responder programs at the events around the community, therapy dog program. And my second hat there was I was in charge of about 150 instructors who go out into the community and
Oh,
essentially teach first
wow.
aid skills to workplaces and yeah, public. So um, it was busy. I loved it. It was very busy. As we know, you could relate people management and volunteer management comes with a lot of challenges, but also extremely rewarding. So I would say busy. I was doing that, and I
And
had my
just briefly, what led you there? So you were in fire services and first responders. How did you get into that field?
Yeah, so I while I was doing this, I was actually still doing volunteer firefighting out in my area. But essentially, I had a really good family friends of ours were very involved there, and one of them was the executive director of this organization, and they were kind of doing a revamp and trying to essentially kind of fix things up at the time. And I got snagged up for that role, to go in there with her and help her essentially get things back on track. So
And I mean, and this was, your mid 30s. You'd been working since a young age, I'm assuming, doing different things. I mean, you're a servant leader, you're a helper, but this seems like a position like a lot of responsibility, and you had climbed some sort of ladder to get there to put yourself in an opportunity to have a leadership position.
yeah, no, I absolutely did. So prior to that position, when I was working more in social services and kind of crisis intervention, I was an instructor there. It was something that I did on the side just for some extra money.
Yep.
Even with firefighting, I've always been very passionate about like the medical side of things.
Right.
So it was something that I did as a side, like little side gig. And at the time that my friend was taking over there, I kind of moved into a role of a trainer. So I slowly started teaching all the instructors coming in and putting them through their development. And the natural progression was there to when she took over, she kind of coaxed me into taking over this new role, which I was super excited about. It was very new to me. It was the first role I'd really done in like an office setting, to be honest with you. So it was a bit of a
Right. Right.
learning curve for me, but it was a very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell. So anyone who's gone to our Gathering of Wolves retreat will tell you that not only is Jay the retreat director, but if someone if someone's having a mental health crisis or a medical crisis, like Jay's the first person to be the first responder. So it's pretty cool to, I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife dude, but it's pretty amazing. All right. So, and you were married at that point, to your wife, Leslie. How long had you been married?
Yeah, so just we just celebrated a 10-year anniversary this past
Congrats.
November. So yeah, we were married at the time. We had a couple dogs at home, and at that point we were not parents yet. So we were kind of, to be honest, at that point it wasn't really on the radar. We were kind of happy with where we were at. We were both, just working on our careers and living life and having fun. And obviously that came to a screeching halt, right?
Yeah, so let's just dive right into that. So you get diagnosed, total life asteroid hits you, and it impacts you in a million different ways. But let's focus on the work again today. How did it impact your work? I guess immediately or thereafter as you're starting to go through your treatment.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it was a very difficult time. Um, Leslie and I's world got absolutely turned upside down. I think I, yeah, I mean, one of the blessings that came out of it was that I unfortunately got diagnosed during the pandemic, but fortunately, I got diagnosed during the pandemic because that allowed me to still work from home remotely, which I think if the pandemic wasn't going on and I had to be in the office all the time, like I don't necessarily know if I would have been able to do as much and stay as involved as I was with the ability to work remotely.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely was a gift out of the whole thing because being able to kind of still have that purpose and wake up every day and log onto the computer and accomplish things and get things done was super important, right? Because uh, I'm sure we'll get into it, but definitely one of the fears was, am I going to be able to still work? Like, what's this going to look like?
Yeah. 100%. Um, and so you were able to stay on with the same organization for a while?
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to stay on with that organization, essentially working full time all the way through my 6 months of full fox, leading right up to I did my surgery I took a few weeks off for that. And then, of course, pathology came back and I had to do 6 months of FOLFOX. So I stayed on that entire time. And right at the end of FOLFOX, I ended up taking a couple months off. I was just at that point, as anyone could imagine, I was burnt. Um, I definitely was working to avoid what was really happening, just to keep my head in a normal kind of life space. But when the end of treatment came, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything kind of came crashing down. And I decided to take a couple months off from that. And that's when kind of a lot of that soul searching started. And I didn't actually go back to that role. So during those couple months, I think we'll talk a bit more about that, but that's
Yeah.
when kind of the wave of everything really hit. And I realized kind of I wasn't who I was prior to that diagnosis anymore. And I had some, really some thinking to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on a couple critical themes here. Number one, this when you're going through it, and so Folfox is a chemotherapy treatment common for colorectal cancer. It's an ass kicker, not fun in any way, mentally, physically, across the board, spiritually. So, but when you're in it, that's your job, right? Like, and you were still working, but it's also your job to be on chemo. You're treating your cancer. Your goal is to survive for your people and yourself, right? And then oftentimes after you're quote unquote done, right, with your treatment, that's when, all of a sudden you have, there's this time to process, like, what the hell have I just gone through?
Mm-hmm.
And it hits sometimes like a ton of bricks. Sometimes people around us think that after we're done treatment is the time it's like celebration. You got through it, and for stage 3 folks, and for those who aren't going to be in continual treatment, it's like this compressed time frame. Like, you're going to do this treatment, and then you're going to go, back to normal, whatever the hell that is. But you're then all of a sudden you get cut loose from this mission to kill cancer that you've been on for that like really intense period, and you're honestly like you're just like adrift, and you're looking at everything in your life and really saying like, what is it that I want to prioritize in my life? It's like a reckoning in a lot of ways. Does that resonate with what you went through?
Oh, 100%, right? Like, and I think in my situation specifically, I had, a lot happening in that time. It was kind of that, I guess, kick in the teeth of the last year of surgery and treatments, and that kind of comes to a head. As you mentioned, like getting cut loose and just kind of being like, all right, you're done.
Yeah,
Forget
you're
about
you're
everything.
you're
Go
good
live.
now.
Yeah, go live your life. You don't have to think it's a distant memory. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely
right.
very distant. Um, but then for Leslie and I, we had kind of we were also in the process of adopting Kira during that time. So she moved in with us 2 weeks after my last Folkbox treatment.
Oh, wow.
So we were kind of in this big kind of tornado spiral, whatever you want to call it, of all these huge life changes kind of at the same time. Um, and I think like a lot of people listening could probably relate. Like, I know my experience was some of the most challenging times for me has been since all that stopped, like since the surgery and treatments have stopped.
Yeah.
I've had, those have been, I know people that maybe won't understand or haven't been there won't necessarily get this, but not so much anymore. But in those early days, in the first year after kind of I was done all that, there was days I wished I was like back on chemo and my team was there and they're calling me every 2 weeks and I get to go back for blood work. And
Yes.
it's such a weird thing to think
It's
about.
yeah, it's a paradox. People who haven't been through it, they're gonna look at us and be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But they're. You're right. You're
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, it was just I think the best way I could describe it is it was just a very um lonely, confusing, just lost kind of period, right? Like, I had all this really great stuff going on with Kira, and like treatment was over, and I was ecstatic about all that, and becoming a dad, it was the best way possible to rebound back after a year of surgery and chemo and cancer. But there was also that part where, like, we all know that have been through it, like, you're not the same, right? You change. And
Inevitably, yes. Like, even if you don't think you're gonna, the process changes you.
yeah, right. And so I was kind of in this whirlwind of, not only did I just come off this cancer experience, That was a huge gut punch, but it took a lot of toll on me, of course, but Leslie and my family, and now I'm suddenly a dad as well. So it's your priorities and your tolerance for like risk and where you spend your energy and how you spend to choose like how you choose to spend your time. Um, it was totally different, right? Like everything changed.
Yeah, so like you're facing this like real existential crossroads. Like, hey, I've just been through this thing. I'm 36. Like there's not too many peers at your age in your area going through it, but you had met folks online, but like you're evaluating for work specifically, like what is it, the work that I've done in the past, what is it that I want to do in the future, and then on top of that you were layering on a massive responsibility, right? Like because you and Leslie, you both work, you're co-providers for your family, but here comes the adoption of Kira, and it's not like you have all the time in the world to like figure out how are we going to pay the bills, like the economic realities are staring you in the face. Plus, part of our masculinity in a really positive way is wanting to help provide. We don't need to be the sole providers, but to help provide for our families. Yeah, you better believe that's part of our drive as men. So so how did it's almost like conflicting realities because you're trying to sort out what you want to do, but you're under pressure to make things happen.
Oh, 100%, right? I like it's kind of like you're pulled in. I felt like I was definitely, and not this is not in a bad way, right? But I was
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
pulled multiple directions, and I remember trying to like Leslie and I having conversations about, all right, like what's the right thing to do here, right? Like there's, now we have Kira, who you're responsible for this little life, and all like the amount of time I had previously to just do all those things that I do was not an option anymore because I wasn't willing to sacrifice that time away from her. Um, I knew kind of the stress and the busy lifestyle wasn't good for me anymore, right?
Right,
After like,
right, right.
especially for long term, kind of my health, cancer recurrent, all that jazz. Um, and purpose, like for me, purpose was big because even though I knew things had changed, I'd still spent my entire, mostly adult life helping people in like very significant ways. So I definitely didn't want to, I knew I didn't want to get away from that. But at the same time, I knew deep down that I couldn't do it the same way that I've been doing it, just for a lot of different reasons.
And so what were some of the decisions that you made coming out of that, when it came to the future of your work?
Yeah, well, I think a big one for me was stress management, the stress and the pressure of work. I loved being, responsible and in charge and mentoring and coaching all these people, but also it comes with a lot of stress, right? And a lot of people, like people management is not easy, even when you have great people, right? It's constant and it's constantly a million balls in the air, right? And for me, I knew that was something that probably wasn't the best thing long term,
Yep.
especially doing 40, 50 hours a week uh, wasn't a good thing for me. So I knew at that point, like I definitely wanted to remove myself from, let's say, like a management supervisory kind of role.
Yep.
Um, and I just had this kind of thought one day of like, I just want to go to work. I want to be a little worker bee, do what I do really well,
Yep.
enjoy it,
Yep.
and just go home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have like all this responsibility and people manage and all these like deadlines. And like, I literally just want to go in, feel good about what I do, leave the day at the office, go home and give my wife and daughter the rest of my attention. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that was super important for me. I knew for my family, but also for me after everything, with cancer, like that was a big stress reduction technique as well. Um, so the search kind of began, right? Of what do I want to do? How am I going to help people? How do I apply all these life experiences and all these skills that I've built up over the years that I wasn't willing or wanting to give up and walk away from? But how do I adapt that to kind of this new vision of what's best for me now, at this point in my life? So, you know, I I had a couple little roles, in like case management and like mentoring and that type of stuff where I was more just helping one on one and not necessarily in charge of a lot of people or teams. And I like that. It was fun. It was a nice transition away from what I was doing, but it wasn't it. Like we all know there's that, when something's it and something's not it.
Yes.
And I knew, I had a couple opportunities that were great, but they were definitely stepping stones,
Yeah, and
right?
those are
Like,
the ones I think we all have that we want to fail fast at. Like I think I've had a couple jobs where within 2 weeks I knew like, yeah, this is not it. And
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I'm bailing.
yeah, right. So exactly, it was kind of just, um, I'm a big believer on like, things are put in place for things are put in place for you
Yep.
for a reason, and you kind of have to do A and B before you get to C,
Oh,
right? So
absolutely. Yes, 100%.
I didn't necessarily know what that end road was, or I didn't know it at the time. But where I'm at now, actually, I ended up where I am now because of being in one of those roles, right? So I was supporting somebody at the time, who was going through a difficult loss, and we ended up where I'm working now, and it was a total like just meant to be. So yeah, it was a bit of trial and error and trying to figure out kind of what I really wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Um, during all that, Leslie and I decided it would be best I kind of retired out of the fire service. Obviously, there's a lot of risk just with cancer, mental, physical stress, everything that comes along with that. So my team, I knew deep down, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to believe that, of course, but I knew deep down it was the right thing to do. Um, so during all that, I decided to, step away from that and really go full tilt into this new career, really, and kind of see where it went and kind of just jumped in.
Yeah. So tell our folks like what is this new career that you've come out of this cancer experience and now that you've really dived headfirst into?
Yeah, so I am currently like I'm a family support specialist with a local funeral home here in Ottawa. And we specialize in working a lot with families that don't want to whether spend a whole bunch of money, right? They want affordable, transparent, very high quality service. But we also do a lot of things with like social services and the coroners, that are unfortunately some very tragic circumstances. So I kind of support and really help navigate those families through the process. Um, and I think one of the things I always like to add whenever I talk about it is during the cancer experience, and I think you could probably relate to this as well, is out of everything, like the one thing that always terrified me was death,
Yeah.
like my mortality,
Right.
right? Like what would happen, what that process would look like. From my situation, like that wasn't a reality that I was facing at any point in my journey. But when you hear cancer, you automatically think that, right? Especially early on, like you don't know, you don't understand. Um, so that was definitely like a very high stress, almost like obsessive point for me that I spent way too many hours talking to my therapist about.
Oh, you and me
Um,
both, buddy.
yeah. So ironically, like when this opportunity kind of came up, anybody that knows me like knows that, you know, I take things head on and I'll go, full steam ahead, right? So I figured kind of, well, this is the one thing that scared me. It's the one thing that really, to be honest, terrified me and took a lot of space up in my head.
Yeah.
Now I have this opportunity to not only be around it every day, but also help people that need a lot of help through like the toughest times in their lives. And I've seen a lot of that, right? In a lot of different capacities and myself as well. So I kind of like, I figured it'd be a great way to put everything I do and I've experienced kind of together, both like personally and professionally, and really be able to, guide people through really challenging times in their life.
Yeah, I mean, dude, so many thoughts here, but I have to say a couple things. Number one, I believe our Western culture, right now, our modern Western culture is the most death phobic, death denying culture probably in the history of the world, where, we don't want to see it, we don't want to be around it, we want to deny it, like it's not real, we don't want anything to do with it to the detriment, right, of our whole culture. I mean, I feel like this is one of our culture's major, major flaws, right? And like when you go through cancer, you are forced to confront your own mortality, the mortality of others, to get clear around your beliefs, and to spend a lot of time. I mean, my anxiety around death and dying since I was diagnosed 8 years ago, like it lives with you every day. And anyone who would say like those cancer muggles out there who are like, telling you not to think about it, or hey, your fear about the future is getting in the way of your enjoyment of the present. It's like, yeah, okay, I get that. Thanks for reading out of the book, but when you're living with a disease that's trying to kill you, right? It's a different story. But the
Be,
second, oh, go ahead.
be positive. If
Yeah,
you think it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen.
oh, so I've also embraced it too. Like I'm all in. Like when I have those feelings, I'm like, all right, I'm sitting down with these feelings right now. What are we trying to learn here? But the second thing is, and I'm laughing a little bit because I can imagine listeners out there hearing you be like, so I went through this, this cancer journey, which, spread to my lungs. You're talking about mortality staring you right in the face, and you're going to decide to counsel people, right, going through loss and death. And I think a lot of people would be like, I want to run away as far as I fucking can from death and dying because, like I just want to be not away from it. But you explained it very well as to why, right? But you said like, no, I want to like confront this. I want to bring my best self to this incredibly underserved, under-resourced area of our culture. Talk just a little bit more about that, and like, and then also talk about that decision, and then also how you're able to sort of find space away from cancer, death, dying, like those really heavy things.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess the decision was it was definitely a scary decision. It's not something that I ever thought I
Yeah,
would ever be
right,
doing.
right.
So to kind of have that talk with Leslie about the opportunity and then share with my family and then be like, holy shit, am I actually going to do this? Um, it was intimidating. It was scary. I was kind of walking away from everything that I knew in like emergency services, social services. Like I lived in that world for as long as I could remember. And going into something brand new, it was scary. However, one thing that we all know cancer teaches you is you got to do the stuff you're scared of because that's when all the good stuff happens, right?
That's right.
Um, so I just got feeling that, this opportunity was put in front of me for a reason. I also knew that um, quality of life and the things that I was trying to get away from, this opportunity would provide me. And at the same time, really put up some good boundaries and actually actually have a pretty healthy experience in this role, regardless. Like if there's hard days, absolutely. I don't go in like it's not easy. And personally, what I've been through has really prepared me and, has allowed me to develop skills to go in, do my job, come home. And I really don't bring a lot home with me. Like to be honest, I know people might, or the odd thing will stick with me, and I'll come home and I'll chat it out a little bit, and I'll go on a run and beat myself up physically a little bit, and then it's all kind of better. But for the most part, it's a very special, like it's a very special thing, right? To be able to help somebody and a family
Uh,
through these types of situations, and that's really where I try to keep my headspace at, right? we have we have interactions with these families or individuals for maybe a week or two at the most, right? So this is not like a long-term thing. It's a very quick,
yeah,
acute
yeah.
uh, involvement with these families. So what I really take from my cancer experience, to be honest, is all those little things that make a difference, right? It's not always the big things. It's like the smile, the little thing, the listening to the details, and it's just really those small things that could really provide a lot of comfort to the families. And I don't know, I absolutely love it. I think it's a very special place to be.
Oh, I think it's one of the most important, most generous, work that a person can do for to serve others on this planet. I mean, um, and what about your relationship with death then? Are you less scared of death having done this work for a while?
Yeah, well, I definitely don't want to pass away, of course. But I definitely can say that um, I would be lying if I said I'm not scared of it.
Right.
However, I'm a little less scared of it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a little more comfortable with a lot of aspects of it. Um, just I'm in the position where a lot of the mystery gets taken away. You kind of see behind the curtains a little bit. And through a lot of like training and education and just like I understand a lot more. Um,
Yeah.
in Canada, I know we have there's a lot of really beautiful experiences because we have access to like medical assistance in dying, right? So we work with a lot of families in that, and some of the stories from the families, like it's really beautiful. So you hear some of these situations, and you're like, oh wow, like it's not always what TV and the movies and
Yeah.
all the bad things you hear. Like, yes, there's certain circumstances that are terrible, of course,
Yep.
but there's also a side to it that is quite intimate and very beautiful and special that, like you mentioned, in the Western culture, I think is often ignored and really kind of swept under the rug.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all spot on. Let's move to, well, let's call out some resources around this, because when we talk about interruption or derailment of work and careers for men going through cancer, there are some pretty great resources. I want to shout out one really impressive nonprofit, Cancer and Careers. Um, I'm trying to find my description of them. There we go. All right. So cancer and careers is they empower people with cancer to thrive in the workplace by providing the tools, training, and support they need to navigate work after a diagnosis. There's a lot that goes into it. Check them out. If Jay has other additional specific resources, I'll throw them in the show notes so you guys can check out some organizations that really focus on that topic. I also want to say this. Let's call out those who can't work. Like, so for me, when I was going through my chemotherapy, I tried to keep working my job and I couldn't. I couldn't keep working my job because of my mental health and my physical health. And I ultimately went on disability. And I just want to shout out to everyone out there that everyone experiences cancer treatment differently. There are some who are able to keep doing their work, whatever that may be. There are some who need to take breaks from that work. There are some who need to totally shift careers, which both Jay and I did, right? Like I was trained as a journalist, and before I got diagnosed, I was a communications consultant, public relations, doing my own business, and that I've never resumed that work since. And I pivoted, and now I work full time, as founder of Man Up to Cancer. So I just want to say, like, if you're going through something and you feel like, oh my gosh, like all these guys are just working full time and crushing everything during cancer treatment, like that's not always, it doesn't always look like that. Even for the most, toughest guys out there, I think I'm a pretty tough guy and I went through some rough times. And sometimes I felt ashamed for that. I felt guilty. And now looking back on it, I just look at it as something that if I didn't go through that period of not being able to work and being at my darkest days, I would not understand what that is for others. And I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the work that I do now. So it was actually a blessing in my life. Disability is something that's there for folks as a part of the social contract when you can't work. So I just want to try to remove some of the stigma and like taboo around like, that your journey has to look like everyone else's. I mean, but there are some themes that we're all seeking, right? Like the threat to your purpose. Cancer absolutely threatens your purpose and your identity because as men, a lot of times that's wrapped up in what we do. And secondly, the financial stress, the fear of long-term instability, that is always real, right? Like you have to, right? You got to pay the bills, you got to take care of yourself and your people and help. I was fortunate to have a wife who carried us, financially and with insurance until I started earning money again and working. And then third is just isolation from colleagues and loss of a professional community. You experienced that. With fire service and the nonprofit, like there was a community that you had before cancer that you don't, engage or that you engage in a different way with now, right? Talk about that.
Yeah, well, I just want to kind of backpedal just a
Yeah,
sec,
do it.
kind of just what you touched on. And I just want to be really clear too that, we're obviously on like an hour podcast and we can't go on forever, but
This
like,
is not Joe Rogan.
yeah, exactly. I think it's good for perspective, right? That even my career change, it was about like a 2 year process, right? It
Yeah.
was not like a one day, everything fell into my lap and the
Poof.
world
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah.
It was about a 2 year process of like being pretty lost, right? And um, not feeling accomplished and not feeling like I had a purpose, and
Yes.
lots and lots of hours in therapy talking to my therapist about options and kind of a path forward, and lots of talks between Leslie and I too of like where to really go.
And
So I got,
and that's like gutting through it. Like that
yeah,
process, that like limbo is that
yeah,
sucks. It
yeah,
really sucks.
yeah. Because I mean, really, like the loss of, I think you hit it head on because I definitely experienced when I went back to work, I didn't feel like I connected with anybody anymore, right? Because like you walk back into a group of people after, regardless who it is, right?
Right, right,
Uh,
right.
like after a cancer diagnosis, and even if it's not the case, you think everybody looks at you differently, they think different of you, like, and then there's this like I'm like, well, none of you really understand, and all those little things that used to be a big deal at work really were stupid, and they weren't a big deal anymore.
Right, right. The trivial stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's important too that even though, I am very grateful and fortunate to kind of be in the position I'm in, um, it very well could have not got that way, right? And not gone that way to where I was back at work. And I did navigate a lot of those very
Yeah.
similar kind of decisions and feelings, and, that gut wrenching, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want to be doing if I'm going to be able to do what I want to do. Um, and then of course having a young family, like we're 36 young, we have mortgages, we have car payments, we have a little one at home, and we're doing very well, but there was a time that was very stressful,
Yeah. Sorry. We got a little glitch on
right?
the
Like
a
you
little
can't
glitch
always
on the
do, like
Zoom.
I'm always, sorry, I've always done what I've loved to do, and I kind of found myself in a position I had to just work because we had bills to pay,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do because you need to pay the bills.
Yeah. No, that's it. Absolutely. I mean, and I got lucky because I liked a lot of the stuff I did before cancer. Like I felt really good about it, but I've never found more purpose than what I'm doing now. Like this job, this field has given me purpose in a way that none of the stuff before it can really compare to. Um, so sometimes it can be an opportunity, right? Like, and I say that with full knowledge, knowing that there's a lot of guys out there, they've already found their purpose and that gets robbed from them. Like sometimes cancer will rob your purpose and you can't do it in the way that you did. And that's really hard. I was lucky, like for me, I was open to a shift. I think like we were kind of both open to a shift in our work after, going through cancer and I think it's brought us a lot of purpose and meaning. I'm pretty simple. I just want work that's meaningful and great. Enough money to get through, like so I'm not feeling a ton of pressure, and great relationships with the people that I love. I mean, if you've got those things,
Yeah, and in my kind of career change, like I absolutely experienced that loss, right? Because um, if it wasn't for a cancer diagnosis, I would absolutely still be in our local fire department, right?
right?
Like that was a reason, like so that was something I did have to shift away from for a variety of reasons that my team felt was best, and so I definitely got that rug pulled out from under me. And I was on about a year and a half, well, probably about 2 years actually, while I was going through kind of all the career shift as well, that I kind of just kept taking leave after leave because I wouldn't accept the fact that I wasn't going back. And it took a lot with a lot of time, right? With again, talk about priorities were and why I was kind of having to make certain decisions. But that one made me really angry for quite a while, actually.
Oh yeah, I remember. Like
Yeah,
that, yeah, there's that
yeah,
anger piece, right? Like, and you got to process that
yeah,
too. So it's a lot.
yeah.
I
Like
think,
I,
go ahead.
yeah, I was definitely. I mean, and you probably remember, like I was fighting tooth and nail holding on to that. Like there was, I'd say that there was a small part of my brain that was not going to let me not do that again. And I went back and forth, and it was a tough one. That was a very gut wrenching one, and I was really mad at the diagnosis for a while, because of that, because I definitely felt that it robbed that from me. But now, kind of, you know, 5 years later, to see where I am, do I miss it? Absolutely, right? I still am a bit bitter about the fact that I can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
However,
right.
there's been a lot of blessings and things that have really, come full circle that I can say I'm really, I'm content and I'm happy and I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now.
I want to talk a little bit about how you kind of look into the future and when you think about work and your career now. But I do want to say we're getting close. We are getting
Mhm.
close to the gauntlet of random questions. You, sir, will not escape. You will not escape the gauntlet. We are putting you in it. And I've got four brand new questions for you. Um, and I will say this. If this kind of talk, right? If you want to talk to us like and guys like us going through cancer about work and careers and all the other stuff, come into our community. manuptocancer.org. If you're a man impacted by cancer, whether you're a patient, long-term survivor, caregiver, um, come into our community and it's 24/7. You have access to peer-to-peer support. There's conversations like this all the time that Jay's having, and also on our virtual calls that we have, or meetings that we have usually every 2 weeks, and other places. We have local chapters, right? So my point is, if you need support around work and careers and navigating, and if you have some of those feelings that we've been talking about, we're here for you. So talk about, is this a career that you see yourself staying in for the long run, or do you just put out like, you know what, I'm just going to say, see how it goes? Like, how do you view the future in terms of your work?
Yeah, well, I think I see long term a little bit differently now than I used to.
Right.
Um, not that anything's wrong or I don't think I'm going to be, around long term. I'm doing wonderfully. However,
Yes,
you know,
sir.
obviously, I'm obviously a little bit more hesitant to think about 20 years down the road or give those timelines anymore, like I was once very confident to do. However, I'm happy where I'm at right now, right? Like I have a really great balance between work, family, and my incredible work with Man Up to Cancer with the retreat. It kind of lets me keep my feet like my feet in the pond a little bit.
Yep.
Help a lot of guys do an amazing event and still kind of get the support and start from the community, but also go back to life with my family and live a little bit outside that cancer space. But the uh, the only thing that'll pull me away from what I'm doing now is if I could come on, it would be when Man Up to Cancer owns their own land somewhere,
Yes.
beautiful
Yes.
forest, and we get to do these retreats all year
I
round.
love it.
Um, that would definitely, I think, trump what I'm doing now. But I still try to balance both, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we've been trying to get Jay some compensation, but it's tough as we're starting out as a nonprofit. We're doing the best we can, but that vision of the future that we all share, right? That we could have a place of our own and we could have retreats throughout the year, and you will be an integral part of that. I am with you on that. Um, and So if there's any, billionaire benefactors out there who would like to make that happen, you know how to reach us. All right, it is time to get into the gauntlet. I don't think he's ready for this, but he's got to be. So, gauntlet of random questions. Jay Abramovitch, number one. If you could witness any moment in history, but not change it, just to understand it and witness it, what moment in history would you choose? And take your time. You can think about this.
Yeah. Well, I would and see my grandfather during the war. because he was on the Navy, and his boat actually is docked near Toronto. As a museum. So every few years we can you kind of stand on there and like I know he's walked there, he was there, right? And he's passed on now. But he always used to say, as tough as it was, always huge. And I'd love to just go see him in his prime at that time kicking ass.
That is beautiful, man. Our Zoom for the video is getting pretty glitchy. So if anyone, I think I'm going to try to post the video. If anyone's watching that, I'll see if I can get the audio on it. But the audio version on this for Spotify and Apple and all that stuff, you will hear the whole thing. You're not gonna miss any of Jay's gauntlet. So, yeah, a little glitchy between South Mountain, which we have to point out does not have a mountain. So there's that. Um, all right, Jay, are you with me? Ready for number two?
Let's do it.
All right. You get to replace your alarm clock with any sound in the universe. What sound wakes you up every morning, whether you like it or not?
I would have to say on the fire department, the alarms that wake you up overnight. Um, those things get you out of bed real quick. And it's been a few years now, and I still wake up some nights that could be a bit lazy, but that sound would get me moving.
All right. That's awesome. And the last one for you. What everyday activity should absolutely be an Olympic sport? And how confident are you that you would medal?
I think that hiking in the mountains should be an Olympic sport.
Love it.
And I would 100% gold medal that thing.
Love it. Yes, Jay. Jay Abramovitch has passed through the gauntlet of random questions with flying colors. Jay, it was a pleasure, man. We will talk to you again, and I love you, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's always an absolute pleasure.